Well, we got two punters. I mean, we feel like definitely Matt edged out Grant, during training camp, and it was an edge. I mean, and you got both kids have college punting experience in a game. So that makes them even. You look at all their numbers. I mean, we charted every single punt from first day to the last day of training camp, and they were so close. But Matt, edged him out on hang time, edged him out on yardage, edged him out on operation time. Uh, you know, but there was just an edge. So we talked to him. I talked to Grant and Matt both. This week. Hey, no matter who we roll out there, punt one, that doesn't mean the other guy's not going to punt, because we got two guys we think are neck and neck, and like I said, both have game experience. If one of them didn't have game experience, that would make it different. So, we're using this week to continue to use them both, and they'll both play for us.
Is this going to be like a weekly event where you just sort of keep tabs on them?
I mean, I hope not. But when you do have two good ones, that's always a double-edged sword. You got two quarterbacks. Hey, do you play them both? Well, sometimes that works out good. Sometimes everybody's like, why don't you just pick one and go with it? So what I don't want to get into is if one of them goes out there and starts and, has a bad punt, go with the next one, and then he's in there till he has a bad punt, then you go with the other one. That's what you don't
Right.
want to get into as a coach, because then you just set up a bad deal for the kids. They're just under the gun of, I can't make a mistake. In every position, you're allowed to make a mistake. DBs are going to get beat deep, and you got to roll on back out there, son, and play again. Quarterbacks are going to throw an interception. Running backs are going to fumble. So, you really got to treat those kids the same. If they if they win the job and they did good in a game, and they have a mistake here or there, you keep going with them. So I'm hoping that, through the rest of this week, and then get in that game and see both of them punt, see who handles that type of game environment pressure the better. We'll have a better, understanding of it in week 2, and for sure by week 3 or 4, I think we'll be settled into who the guy is.
Is Matt kind of a laid back guy? Like, what's his personality like?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get, rattled. Grant doesn't either, though, really. I mean, they're both very similar, in their personalities. Very, they both care about their teammates. They both want to do well. They both try really hard. They're both encouraging to each other. And they're laid back. They don't get overexcited about anything.
How are you connected to the Australia? How did all that happen that he ended up? He said his coach knew you, or there was something.
Yeah, the original thing was purely by happen chance. A guy named Rick Sang that's heavy into ProKicker.com. I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this, so don't repeat it. But you asked. He's a friend of mine because he's an Eastern alum. And so he runs these kicking camps and all that. And so anytime I was looking for, punter, kicker, long snapper, I'd call Rick and say, hey, who's the best guys you got? And he'd send me the times on them and, measurables and, talk about the kids. And so then I'd go to the high school coach and, ask about character and, academics and all that. Well, one day he called, and I guess he took his camp stuff over to Australia and ran a camp in Australia. And he called one day and said, do you need a punter? And I was like, well, really, I don't. I had a combo kid that I thought could do both. And I said, well, what do you got? He said, I was over in Australia, and I handed this kid a football and told him to, on the 50-yard line, told him to punt it and put it out inside the 10. And he punted the ball down, and it went out on the 3, and he told me he was sorry. He said, so I think you ought to look at this guy. Well, that was Jordan Berry. So we got Jordan Berry at Eastern. He's punting for the Steelers. And then the next guy from that same crew there, same group of guys that you trust, then because of that was then Keith Ruzek, who's a senior punter, 4-year starter now at Eastern. We'll see him punt here in a couple of weeks. And then that same group of guys called and had a graduate guy that could go anywhere, and we just thought that was a good thing to have some competition at the punting position.
Is Lynn Bowden going to play a role in the return game right away?
Yeah, I don't know if right away, but he's going to play a role. There's no doubt. He's kick return, no problem. We got a ton of guys back there, D-Rob and Saheem and him and Snelly, and so we got a ton of guys, Mike Edwards, a bunch of guys back there that can do that, and he can do that. That's no problem. He did in high school, catches all that stuff clean. Where it's a question mark, is in the punt return game, which he didn't do, but he's getting more comfortable at. Charles Walker looks great back there. Mike Edwards looked great back there, and we're really working him. If not for the near future, for the for the future when you lose Charles, and you know, Mike's just got one more year. So that's what we're kind of hoping, is that's a down the line game, you know, thing in the punt return game, and you'll see him more quickly, I believe, in the kickoff return.
Dean, have you let yourself look ahead to that game next week against Eastern at all? Just
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's one game at a time, and you know, I've been asked about that a lot, and I mean, I'm sure get on the sideline and see those kids I recruited, and you know, see the kids I sat in their parents' home and said, hey, I'm gonna take care of your son, and you know, wasn't able to, you know, see it to graduation for a lot of those kids. I'm sure it'll hit me then and be emotional, but that is all it will be, is just that, you know, I care about those kids. It won't be anything about, you know, anything to do with how things were handled at Eastern. That's all. I went to Charlotte and got healed from all that, and that's all, you know, water under the bridge.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.